Watch here. I don't want to watch.
Well,
Let me put it in my pocket.
it's recording.
But I do need the pen in my hand.
It's recording.
Have you started it? Okay. Hello, Kitty. Kitty, come on. Come on, Kitty. Come on, Kitty. Kitty. She doesn't pay any attention. Hello, this is Mario Farina. Today I'll be reading a story to you entitled Fear of Friday the 13th. Here's a picture that appears at the front of the story. This story can be seen and read in smashwords.com, www.smashwords.com. It's free there. While you're there, you'll see many other stories that are also free and can be read as you wish. Fear of Friday the 13th. The date was March 8, 2016. Frank Desmond was having a nightmare. There was a right hand pointing to him, the forefinger and thumb fully visible, fingernails jagged, long, and pointed. Simultaneously, a hollow, echoing, disembodied voice was speaking in a low, ominous tone. Frank Desmond, when the date on the calendar tells you it's Friday the 13th of the month, it will also signal a looming of doom for you. He awoke shaking with fear, ice-cold blood flowing through his veins. It was 2 in the morning. No, no, he was muttering. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel its powerful movements in his neck. He lay on the bed, waiting for calm to return. Surely this had been the grandmother of all nightmares, he mused. Who was it that had interrupted his sleep so violently? What could it mean? There were no answers forthcoming. Frank, 54, stocky, with graying hair, was owner of Horizons Unlimited, a company he had formed 30 years before. The company was prospering with 130 employees. The company manufactured collectible granite bookends, a product where there was not a great deal of competition. Business was good. He was very wealthy. His wife, Grace, had died many years before, and he had never remarried. Frank knew very little about Friday the 13th. Vaguely, he understood dates of this nature were to be feared. He had never before possessed any trepidation toward them. Why had some entity dealt his brain so strongly a blow that he should now fear them? To whom had that ugly hand with the serrated fingernails belonged? No matter. He had suffered a nightmare. Everyone has this experience from time to time. All that was required, he decided, was to lie still, calm down, and go back to sleep. But sleep did not come. After an hour of tossing, he muttered, "Evil one, why are you tormenting me?" He had not expected an answer. The shadows in Frank's bedroom deepened. He stared into the blackness, attempting to discern something, anything. Suddenly it did not matter what he saw so long as it was other than utter blackness. The absolute nothingness made him feel as if he himself had dissolved and joined the void. Fear crawled into his psyche, emanating from his chest and invading his neck, next to his throat, and then his brain. "Get away from me! Get away!" he screamed. Then he fainted. He dreamed There was a black shrouded figure where the face should have been. There was nothing. There was nothingness, a black pit. "Who are you?" he cried out. "I am Shadim, a devil, the devil incarnate." "Why do you torment me?" "This is what I do. For this was I created. I am your fears. The reason for my being is to frighten and doom. You will glance at the date. It will be 1 minute after midnight. You will recoil in terror when you see the date is Friday the 13th. You will die. Fear me, Frank. Fear." He knew he was dreaming and willed himself to awaken. He did so with a start, a word drumming in his brain. Calendar, calendar. To save himself, he needed to avoid seeing Friday 13th on the calendar. He could do something about it. He was the founder and president of his company. There were no prerogatives in his company that any employee could oppose. He determined to create a calendar that had no Friday 13ths on it. For business purposes, it would be the only calendar his company would allow employees to use. Uncharacteristically, he threw himself out of bed and rushed to the computer. He saw that the next Friday 13 would occur on May 13. There was no other in 2016. He determined to submit a calendar to employees that would contain no Friday the 13th in 2016. There wasn't much time, but he dedicated himself to create a new calendar for the current year. This year, Friday, May 13, was to become Friday 31, 2016. And Tuesday, May 31, was to become May 13, 2016. The rest of the year was to remain unchanged. He rushed to his office and began working to implement his idea. On the following day, he submitted a calendar he had designed to International Calendar Company in Memphis. He requested rush delivery since it was desperately needed well before the current May 13. 200 calendars for the year 2016 were delivered to the company on May 2. Frank asked a trusted employee to examine every page of the product to make sure there was no Friday the 13th on any page, especially May. The calendar company had placed a magnificent picture of the company's main building on the front cover. The remaining pages were devoted to artistic renditions of the signs of the zodiac. In his ornate office, he had one of the calendars placed on the wall where the old one had been located. With some trepidation, he turned to the May page. To his delight, where Friday, May 13 should have been, there was May 31. Where Tuesday, May 31 should have been, was May 13. Frank ordered workmen to visit every place in his company where a calendar would be located, remove the old one, and replace it with the new. He also instructed the workers to post a document on all the billboards in the company. This is how it read: all personnel. You may have noticed that a new calendar is posted in all offices, and it has a specific difference that you may at first believe is an error. The fact is that the undersigned owner of the company has designed it to be used for the rest of the year. In May, the date May 13 and May 31 have exchanged places. For all business propositions, the company will use this calendar for the rest of the year. This is the only calendar that may be displayed anywhere in this company. Any employee not observing these requirements will be subject to immediate discharge. This order has no effect in your personal life. For answers to any questions that you may have, contact your supervisor. Frank had taken the trouble to personally sign his name at the bottom of this notice. In a separate letter to all employees, he ordered that all desk calendars be destroyed and not replaced. He had a meeting with supervisors whereby he instructed them to respond they did not know. If employees asked why, the owner had provided a special calendar for use in the company. It had been Frank Desmond's expectation that business in the company would move forward as usual, and indeed it did. There were casual questions asked by some about the reason for the calendar's modification. These were deflected. There was a newspaper article on the subject and speculations about it on talk shows, but the company continued to sell bookends in the same way as they had always done. When the company's calendar for 2016 showed Friday, May 31, there were no unusual occurrences in the offices. The next day was Saturday, May 14, and for most of the employees it was a day off. Tuesday, May 13 on the calendar was followed by Wednesday, June 1. Employees accepted this eerie switch in stride. Frank had scheduled a day off for the day before May 31, 2016. On that day, he locked himself into his bedroom and spent the day in self-imposed solitary confinement. He lived the rest of the year in a relatively normal manner, though he avoided entering rooms where he knew there were calendars being displayed. The year 2017 presented its own problems. He learned that there were 2 dates in the year that occurred on Friday the 13th. They were January 13 and October 13. He had calendars made that exchanged the 2 dates with the 31st of the corresponding months. In 2018, there were 2 Friday the 13th. They were in April and July. April had 30 days. He exchanged the positions of Friday 13 with Monday, April 30th. By replacing the company's calendar with a creation of his own that exchanged Friday 13th with another date, Frank was able to avoid viewing Friday the 13th on any calendar since he had had his ominous dream. He would dream the dream from time to time, but it never frightened him as much as it had the first time. In his attempts not to encounter that horrible date, Frank learned a great deal about the occurrences of Friday the 13th. He discovered that every year has at least 1 Friday 13. Some years have 2, and some have 3. It does not matter whether a year is a standard year with 365 days or a leap year. He had committed much of what he had learned to memory. One day in 2024, Frank was having a discussion about leap years with Amos Bradley, a college student. While both readily agreed that 2024 was a leap year and had 2 Friday 13ths, Frank stated they were September 13 and December 13. Amos differed, suggesting the dates were April 13 and July 13. The debate quickly became animated and turned into an argument where both men made unkind and unwise statements. In his fury, Amos reached into his jacket and pulled out a pocket calendar for the current year. He opened it to show September. "See," he yelled, pointing to the dates. "There's no Friday the—" He stopped in mid-sentence. There was a short pause. "Oh, I'm wrong. I apologize." It was too late for Frank to turn away. He had seen that September 13 was a Friday. He felt a sharp pain in his chest and fell to the floor. Frank regained consciousness at the hospital. "Mr. Desmond," the doctor was saying, "you fainted, but you're fine. We'll be keeping you here for observation for a few hours, but we won't admit you. You were probably a little dehydrated." "My heart," Frank objected. "There's nothing wrong with your heart," Dr. Lyons sternly stated. "We'll be discharging you in an hour or so. The hospital needs the room for sick people." "Friday the 13th. I'll die. I dreamed." "That's a stupid superstition," exclaimed the doctor. "I don't have time for drivel. You won't die today. Goodbye." He turned and exited the room. Frank didn't die in 2014. He designed no more calendars after 2024 had ended. He realized what a fool he had been for being frightened by a bogeyman he had fabricated himself. And he stated he was planning on living to see age 100. Thank you for looking. Thank you for listening. I hope you liked the story. Tomorrow I'll have another story for you. Bye-bye.